Hey guys, Space Marine 658 here, and it looks like we got 1.13 coming out. Now, just so y'all know, this is going to be a patch that breaks all games from before. That is a warning that they gave out, so make sure you back up a save. If you want to try out 1.13 and you back up a 1.12 copy. Because otherwise you will lose your saves. All right, let's go over the changes and just see what's going on here. Kind of go through everything and see what's pretty good. All right. So it looks like any significant changes are going to have their own post, so I'll have to make sure that I don't miss anything with that, but most of the big ones should still be in here, I believe. This is just going to be like a comprehensive list, and then any big ones will have their own post just kind of about what changes they made. All right. So, Steve here has said that it looks like using disassemble or scrap component buttons on the economics window will refresh the events window and the tactical map events list. That's kind of handy. New hide fleets in orbit option to declutter map. This is huge because especially if you've got a lot of fleets that are just sitting in orbit for either they're waiting on fuel or they're doing something that you don't necessarily want to have them constantly just cluttering the map with all the lists of ships. So that's really handy. Boat bay has changed to 5.25 hull size and 25 build point cost with the same 5 hull size capacity. So that's a good change from a role-playing standpoint, because basically it means that instead of being the same hull size, there's a little bit of a cost to them compared to what they can actually hold, which makes sense. I mean, your hull, unless you just literally drill a hole in the side of your ship, your bay is going to have to need a little bit of space. Small boat bay has changed to hull size 1.05, so another same kind of change where they take up actual space beyond just the capacity itself. The geosurvey sensor option for missile design will not appear if you do not have geological survey sensors. Okay, that's not necessarily the biggest change, but probably handy for people who don't know if they have them or not. It'll just kind of be more clear that way. That's good. NPRs will select names randomly from their class naming theme rather than using alphabetical order. This is huge. This means that you're not going to see the same ship names over and over and over because of alphabetical. Or class naming technically, but you same idea because they always name it class 0.001 and so on. Paused research projects will be held at the race level rather than by population. This is giant. So what this does right here is it means that if you're researching something and let's say you've just started researching a tech, but you've put some time into it, and then you populate a world that has a research bonus because of the ruins or whatever. This means that when you pause it and then you do it at a different world, you'll be able to continue at that world rather than it just being from scratch at that new world, which sometimes that would still be faster at that time, but this basically means it will always be faster. It is always faster than pause it, move to the other world, and start it there. So that makes those kind of worlds much easier to transfer research over. It's not necessarily the biggest change, but it's definitely a great quality of life one. Beam weapons will not fire if they have 0 chance to hit. That's good because you don't want to recharge them if they can't hit anyways. Fleet name added to the maintenance, failure, and deployment exceed events. This is good. So if you have a ship and you don't know what fleet it's in, this now means that you'll know, okay, my exploratory ship in this fleet, that's where this is. You should name them good enough that you'll be able to find them, but if you've got a lot of them, it gets a little hard and tedious, especially later on in the game. So that just great quality of life feature. On the ground forces window, the mothership name, if needed, has been added to the name of ships transporting ground formations. Okay, that's pretty good change. Again, all these seem like pretty good quality of life. Commander's windows show abbreviations as part of rank names. That's okay. Functions of class for auto-assignment purposes will be shown in class summary. Okay, so that will be, I'm assuming this is, so when you set a class to I forget the names of them, but to do a specific task like hauling or whatever, it'll actually show you the purposes in the class summary, so that's good. The obsolete component button on the class window is only visible for race designed components. It will not appear for basic components such as bridge engineering. Okay. Again, that's another quality of life. That's good because, you can't obsolete the bridge because, it's a bridge. The insufficient power alert on the class design window will now show the reactor power and required power in the alert messages. This is good. What this does is something I struggle with, at least, is finding the power on the shipment viewer. This basically shows me here's what my current power status is and here's what's required. So I can, if I need to, I can design a reactor to fit my needs and then create backups as well. Added show ships option to ground forces window to toggle display of ground forces onboard ships. That's pretty cool. Added option to simultaneously set field position for all ground formations with the original template on the same planet. Also pretty awesome. Some fixes. Sector governors and academy commandants are now protected from auto assignment to a colony. That's awesome because we don't want them being auto assigned. Clearing the colony importance field will no longer cause an error. Good. Copying an obsolete class without show obsolete checked will no longer cause an error. So some bug fixes, some error fixes. Fix error causing grouping context with short names. Cool. Buoys launched while in orbit will now remain in orbit. Yes, this I like. So what this does is before, if you'd launch a buoy while in orbit, it would actually stay in that position in the solar system while the planet keeps moving around. What this lets you do is then plant a buoy in orbit of a planet that you want to watch over, but it'll stay with that planet. So as it goes around in orbit, let's see if I can kind of show the mouse cursor here. As it goes around in an orbit, the buoy will stay with it. So if enemy ships start approaching that planet that you're wanting to blockade or something, then you'll be able to detect them. Let's see. Fixed error caused by active mass driver and no mining production. Okay. Clicking on set specific threat without a target selected will no longer throw an error. Low gravity habitable worlds should be shown correctly on the galactic map. That's good. Fixed an error that caused by the refuel, resupply, and overhaul standing order when destination was in a different system. This is a good one. So what would happen is the standing order, you'd set it, and then they would never actually go complete it if it was done. It was like it had to be done in specific ways, if I remember correctly. But what this will let it do essentially is that it should now always be able to auto route to that system and get there. Percentage of system bodies surveyed completed is now shown correctly in the system view window. Awesome. Fixed a bug allowing multiple spinal weapons. Yeah, that definitely needed to be fixed. Fixed a bug that allowed cloak size 25 before research completed. Also good. Missile launchers will now check for ammo before checking weapon failure. Yeah, because your weapon can't fail if you don't have ammo in the missile launcher. That one annoyed me a little bit in some of my personal games, but I'm glad to see that's been fixed. Fixed a bug that caused a ship designer to treat boat bays like hangar bays when considering flight berth requirements. I haven't seen that one. Tractor links to ships that are deleted or destroyed would now be broken. That's good. You have a tug that basically be unusable at that point. Until I think you could reset it in certain ways by I could never get it to reset by just trying to remove the link. It would just keep trying to auto connect to that thing even though it was gone. Fixed a bug that named Minerva Trojans as moons. Okay. Fixed a bug that prevent creations of new ground unit series. Fixed a bug that was meant that ground forces strength required to force populations to surrender was 100 times more than intended. Yeah, ground forces basically could not. In certain situations, ground forces couldn't force population surrender because they needed so many more. Fixed the bug that allowed STO units to fire at fighters on ground support missions. Yeah, they shouldn't be able to because they're going to be flying so low to the ground that STOs can't fire at them. I mean, they're meant to fire into orbit, not ground level. Fixed the bug that prevented fighters on search and destroy missions from attacking planets without friendly populations. Fixed the bug in STO targeting tab of ground force windows that cause target text in target type to drop down and have no species. Oh, pardon me, no spaces, not species. Target type. Okay. Cool. Fixed error pop up when firing STO weapons against populations, shipyards, or ground forces. Awesome. So now you can actually do that without the error. Civilian harvesters will no longer use banned bodies. Okay. Fixed a bug that meant populations with a very high tracking station strengths would not display range circles. Okay. Fix the bug that caused rendezvous waypoint names to be obfuscated. Trojan asteroids will now change location with their parent body. Orbital distance is changed. Awesome. Deleting ground unit series now works correctly. Fixed a problem with the beam fire control option of 1.25 size, 1.25 range. Sector governors will now apply their population growth bonus to pop growth rather than their terraforming bonus. Yeah, that was a big one. You'd select someone who had like a pretty high population growth bonus, and instead they'd be having their 0 terraforming bonus applying, which was quite frustrating. Fixed the problem with systems being able to be assigned to a sector and then set to no sector. Jump drive cost no longer affected by squadron size if the drive is self-jump only. That's good. Removed spinal railgun option as it was included in error. Oh. Does that mean no more spinal railguns? That kind of sucks, because then you have like the whole Halo thing. Maybe I'm like, this means something specific. I hope not. I hope that he's not removing entire spinal railguns, because that was the whole cool thing about Halo was the Mac cannon. So you could like kind of RP as like that kind of style. Standing order for move to gas giant with Sorium will now only consider gas giants that have been surveyed. Yeah, that's good. Fix some issues around disassembly of command and control components. Hell yeah. Commercial vessels in a fleet that abandons an overhaul will no longer suffer abandoned overhaul penalties. Yeah, that needed to be a change, so I'm glad that happened. Fixed a bug in ship measurement for parasites that resulted in many records of the same type instead of one. Yeah. Shipyards can no longer repair ships larger than capacity. Yeah, that's a big one, because sometimes you'd be thinking you're repairing a ship, but instead it would just be sitting there not repairing because you didn't have the actual capacity. I'm hoping now it actually tells you, hey, the ship's beyond the capacity of the shipyards. Commercial shipyards can no longer repair military ships, thank goodness, because that needed to be changed. Fighters can now load colonists without the requirement for cargo shuttles. Okay. No, why you'd want to do that, but hey, now you can do it. Orbital habitats no longer apply capacity to multiple populations. Okay. Boarding ship is now treated as a hostile act. Yeah, that's a big one. You can board somebody and be at peace with them. This definitely needs to be treated as a very hostile act. Building a ship in a shipyard will lock the parent class even if the shipyard is not tooled for that class. Oh, okay. Events will now be displayed for the assignment of colony governors. Okay. Luna is updated and destroyed correctly in Death Spiral scenario. Commanders were created on subsequently destroyed colonies are displayed correctly. Scrapped carriers will no longer destroy their parasites. The class of captured ships will be locked. Fleets created away from the capital will remain in orbit of the body of the parent admin command is located. And fix the bug positioning of new map labels. Awesome. Let me see. It looks like there might be a little more. Motherships will automatically repair the armor of ships and hangars. Great. Armor is treated like any other component in terms of cost and chance of repair, except on successful repair, a number of armor boxes equal to the armor strength will be repaired within the scope of the roll below. Armor will be repaired from the most damaged columns first. No more than one armor point in a single column will be repaired per increment. That's good. You can research each level capacitor technology. Quarter level text up here alongside. Now allow more efficient beam weapons. That's beam cost is mostly based on the combination of power requirement, range modifier, refresh rate. And some beam weapons will be slightly cheaper. That's good. So a buff to the beam weapons. Reduced shot railguns. In Set 2.1, railguns have an extra design option that will allow them to operate with a reduced number of shots, 1 to 4, and has the following effect. Alright, the power requirements are reduced in line with the number of shots, so a 2-shot railgun only needs half power. Size is reduced by 22.5% of the original size for every shot less than 4. 4 equals 100%, all the way down to 1 equaling 32.5%. The cost formula remains unchanged as this is affected by power requirements and recharge rate. Reduced shot railguns will be correspondingly cheaper. Here are 3 different versions of a 20 centimeter railgun. Capacitor text level 4. As you can see here, here's the railgun size, tonnage. So it looks like, if I'm reading this right, okay. So by having less shots, you can make them lighter and require less cost. But they fire slightly, 10 seconds, so maybe, oh man, if you got a 2-shot railgun, that would fire actually slower than a 4-shot. Because every 15 seconds you'd fire 4 shots, or every 10 seconds you could fire 2. That might have to be changed, because I mean, it is lighter, I guess. The benefit of that is that you could put it on smaller craft. So at 193 tons, you could put it on a FAC pretty easily, with plenty of room for like other weapons. But then again, at 350, you can still put that. I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe it makes a difference in game. It is cool to have options at the very least. And then there's some 10 centimeter shot ones, which these are going to be the ones that are really cool. Because look at this 10 centimeter railgun. Rate of fire 5 seconds for the 2-shot, 3-shot. Oh, they're all 5 second. Oh, maybe the rate of fire. You know, sometimes I confuse myself. I think the rate of fire might be disconnect one, though. Yeah, it can't be disconnected because then damage per shot would be, yeah. So that's a little odd because then what would be, other than like, you know, it's a third of the weight, it's going to take it's going to take 20 seconds for the 1 shot to fire as many bullets as the 10 centimeter 4-shot. Even though it's a third of the weight, so if you put 3 of these, that would mean it wouldn't be nearly as effective. I mean, it makes sense. You want to bunch them up. But I guess it would be handy to just throw on a couple 10 centimeter railguns on some light turrets, just like single shotters, and then you just like douse enemy in fire. But at that point, you basically use a Gauss cannon. So I don't know. Let's check it out. See if it's any useful. Single weapon fire controls. Beam fire controls can be designed for single weapon use only. This is done via an extra dropout in the crate project window, allowing the selection of either multi-weapon or single weapon. As the name suggests, only a single beam weapon can be assigned to a fire control designed for single weapon use. The size, cost, and crew requirements of a single weapon fire control are reduced by 50% compared to the normal multi-weapon fire control. STO weapons already use single weapon fire controls, so this change aligns fire controls of ships and groundways. Yeah. So what this does is it makes it so that ships can basically, you can set up your railguns to each have a fire control, so it makes it lighter, and you have some redundancy. So like me personally, I like to build in a bit of redundancy, so I won't put 1 per turret, but I might put, 1 per battery of turrets. So if I've got 6 guns, I consider 2 guns battery, so I'll put 3 beam fire controls. With this means that for reduced weight, I could put 1 on each and every single weapon for, 50% of the weight. So, I mean, yeah, I could pretty much put 1 on every single gun. Now, it depends on how, far out you're doing, and but the good thing is with this, you can actually modify beam fire controls to kind of match your specific weapon so that you can most effectively use your beam fire controls for their weight. Because as of right now, your biggest thing you want to do is basically just make a big one that can see very far and can aim all your guns, and you just make like 2 or 3 of those on your ship so that you got some redundancy. But this is definitely a good change. That's definitely. Miscellaneous components. Version 1.13 introduces a new category of ship modules known as miscellaneous components. These have no game function and they're entirely for role-playing purposes. Thanks to Vorpal plus 5 for the idea. You design the components on Create Research Projects window by choosing from 0.1 hull size to 100 and give the component a name. Cost is equal to size and hull size and mineral requirements that we split among duranium and Rocassium. The hit to kill is equal to the square root of the size. This new component type on the ship window will contain all miscellaneous components which you can add to the design in the normal way. A new line on the class summary shows all the miscellaneous components in the design. For example, here's a colony ship with 3 different miscellaneous components. Awesome. So I like that. That's a nice role playing function. They won't do a whole lot for sort of like the individual player just playing for their own, but especially for us doing YouTube videos, this gives us a lot of cool tools. So we can add data centers to ships or AI cores. cool little touches that make the ships feel just that little bit more alive. So when your AI core gets knocked out, like that ship is going to take damage and like things like that. I think that's really cool. Fire delay for point defense. Fire delays are applied to ships in 3 situations, with the second and third delays only applying to inexperienced crews. Jump point transit, opening fire, changing targets. Because the fire delays at ship levels, all fire controls are affected. This leads to a situation for larger ships where a single fire control changing target will cause fire delays for all fire controls, including those dedicated to point defense. Oh, that's a good change. Therefore, in version 1.13, fire delay will only apply to point defense fire if it's caused by jump point transit. This will allow for ships to change defensive targets and suffer any associated delays without compromising automated point defense fire, which is functioning in the same way throughout. This is great. This is the best thing ever, because sometimes, you'd be mid-combat and you'd want to switch targets, but because of that, there's that delay that will mean that your point defense will basically be down for that short period of time. So while it wouldn't necessarily be one of those end game kind of things where you'd have to be careful because, your missiles are a little too close, most of the time it wasn't too big a deal. It only really impacted you if you either weren't paying attention to the missiles being close, or something happened where like they had a stealth missile or something if it got too close. But the big thing for here is it means you don't have to micromanage that part of switching fire controls, because you're not too worried about the big guns delaying. That's fine. It's the point defense you don't want to delay. So that's awesome. Instant build to carriers. Instant build on the class window and an option to build straight to carrier hangar bay and assign. This takes away micro upgrading fighters and manually setting the move over Solana carriers. Okay, that's cool. Automated hangar resupply. Motherships will automatically resupply ships and hangars in the same way with automated fueling. Yes! Mothership is soon to have a single cargo bay shuttle for the purposes of hangar resupply only. This shuttle bay can work on all parasites simultaneously. The base transfer rate is therefore 10 maintenance supply points per hour per ship with conventional technology and 20 maintenance supply per hour with TN technology. Okay, so that's so it's a little bit faster, of course, with Transitonian, which a mothership can set a minimum supply amount for itself, and no parasite will resupply minimum supply point below that point. Okay. Carrier operations bonus. A fighter operations bonus for commanders has been renamed to the carrier operations bonus. This bonus will apply to the rate at which fuel supplies and ordnance are transferred to the parasites and ship hangar. That's cool. So instead of it being called fighter operation bonus, which doesn't make sense as it's the commander of a carrier, it's now correctly labeled. And it is awesome that it's applying at the right area. Constellation names when playing as known stars. Many actual star names from star catalogs such as Gliese, Wolf, HIP, or from sky surveys such as WISE. This results in some non-mnemonic repetitive system names. Therefore, I created an optional alternative naming system for the catalog of stars, which I am calling constellation names. In 1603, German astronomer, so it's basically just Alpha Centauri, Tau Ceti, based on the brightness of stars. For Aurora, I'm going to add these centuries-old star catalogs. Firstly, 88 modern constellations. I've identified which Greek letters have not been used by Bayer or removed by the new constellations which were added over time. Which numbers have not been used by Flamstein. I've ordered the known stars by distance from Earth, and I am working my way through them one by one. As I find each Gliese, NN, HIP, etc. star, I look up the star celestial coordinates, right, ascension. So he's basically renaming it so that it makes it so that you're not getting so many of those hard to remember systems. Lambda Reticuli is much easier to remember than Y0350-5658, and so on and so forth. I'm definitely going to turn that on. So, I've done the closest 1,000 stars to Sol. I'll add the other stars in batches. Yeah, that is quite a lot of effort. So I do appreciate that from him because that is a lot of effort. Let's see. Repair yards introduces a third type of shipyard known as part. Yes, I've been waiting for this. This is great. A repair yard is constructed in the same way as naval or commercial shipyard and has the same build cost. A repair yard starts with 10,000 tons of capacity and is upgraded, including additional slipways, at the same rate and cost as a commercial shipyard. A repair yard has the same population requirement as a commercial shipyard. Repair yards is listed after commercial shipyards and denoted with an R. Repair yards cannot be tooled for construction and therefore cannot conduct refits either. They can repair or scrap any ship up to their capacity. Makes sense. No repair yards are upgraded like commercial shipyards. They are faster and cheaper to construct than naval shipyards with the same capacity. They provide a much cheaper option for military repair capacity. Allowing naval shipyards to focus on construction, the cost of a specific ship repair will remain the same in all types of shipyards. Makes sense. Fire at will. A new fire at will option allows ships to reduce fire delays by half at the expense of targeting choice. This can be applied to a single fire control, a ship, or a fleet. When the order is given, each fire control is assigned randomly a random target based on the rules below. Each ship is then assigned a fire delay with a modifier of negative 50% versus normal. The fire delay will override any existing fire delay if the current delay is longer, except if the command is assigned to a specific fire control rather than a ship or fleet, in which case the new fire delay will only override any existing fire delay if the new delay is longer. Normal fire delays only apply once in an increment. If you assign one fire control and then another, the delay is only set once. For fire at will fire delays, this does not apply and it is reset each time. This is to prevent someone using fire at will to reduce delay and then overriding with a specific target. For beam fire controls, the random target is selected using weighing of average probable damage. Each weapon assigned to a fire control is checked against all potential targets using a chance to hit and damage at current range to determine average damage. The total average damage for those weapons is assigned to a target ship as weighing for that fire control, then a target is randomly chosen. For missile fire control, the same random weighted selection process is followed. In this case, though, the weight is equal to the target size in whole size divided by the target range in kilometer. Only targets in range, including ECM, are checked. Fire at will is intended for those situations when a fleet is ambushed, and firing early is more important than coordinating fires with other ships. Each ship chooses its own target regardless of the targets of other friendly ships. Sweet. That is real handy because if you say you pop out through a jump point and on the other side you suddenly find yourself facing down the barrel of some railguns, you can just throw on fire at will and your ships will rain hell back at the enemy. It does mean, like they say, that you can't target specific ships as like a coordinated strike, but it does give you the benefit of being able to really lock onto ships. Random second stage targeting. Random second stage targeting. If a missile releases from its second stage and has no assigned parent fire control, the second stage missiles will select the target randomly using the follow guidelines. And then there's the guidelines right there. So that's cool. That way you can actually use second stage missiles as sort of like a... because one of the big things is being able to leave them off as mines, and that wasn't possible with the random stage targeting. You had to actually specifically target something. So if I understand this correctly, they should let you leave mines with missiles as second stages so they will go and launch at targets when they get close enough. Population ground units. The stockpile tabs of the economic windows is now under the ground unit stockpiles tabs. A third section has been added that displays the tree view of all ground formations at the population, including formation elements. This is a similar view to the ground forces window with the show elements option, blah, 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 is used just for reference and does not have the functionality of the ground forces. Okay, so that's cool. You get like a little extra window there. NPR generation of spoilers. In version 1.12, there's a game level option to allow NPRs to generate spoilers. For 1.13, it's been split into 3 separate options. NPRs generate precursors, NPRs generate swarms, NPRs generate aether rifts. This changes allow for the option for NPRs to engage in some combat with less of an overall impact on the campaign. For example, NPRs fighting precursors has a minimal impact on the player, with the exception of weakening both. NPRs activating a swarm, especially multiple swarms that grow out their player contact, can have a major impact on the campaign. Important event colors. You can import event colors on the event window by using import colors button. This requires a CSV file with 3 values per row. Event ID, background color, text color. The event ID can be found in dim event type. These colors should be integers in the same format as FCT event color. When the file is imported, only the colors of the event types referenced in the file will be added or updated. Event types that are not included in the imported file will retain any existing colors. Export event colors. The new export pumped for 5%. Yes. Okay. So these two combined let you export your colors of your current campaign if you've set them up how you like them. Then in your next campaign, you can import them. That way you save them and keep them. That's great. Export medals. That's cool. This will make it a little easier for people to set up medals in such a way that they like. Distance traveled. All ships will not keep track of their total distance traveled. Ships and hangars won't increment distance, although towed ships will. The total distance traveled is shown on the ship overview. Awesome. That's kind of cool. Neat little feature. You can see like how much you have ships moving around versus just sitting there. The ground combat bonus adds a restriction to the size of the formation the ground officers can command. However, this limitation doesn't mean anything meaningful. Decisions behind most assignments are automated. I've removed it for version 1.13. This means the restriction on ground forces officers can command which formations is not based on rank alone. Ordinal numbers for ground formation templates. Okay, that's not that interesting, but that's cool. Component development cost changes. Current formula for component development costs have a couple of problems. Firstly, they are not always consistent between different component types. Secondly, because of their linear ratio, most build cost and development costs for most components, very large components, can be prohibitively expensive to research, and the following changes are intended to address this problem. So basically, he square rooted the cost so it's less linear, so it's a bit more leveled off when it gets towards the expensive end, which that's awesome. It gives you a bit more benefit to the larger components. In general, this means the components with a build cost of 50 will have the same development costs as before, while more expensive components will be cheaper to develop and vice versa. For example, a development cost of 10 build points will increase from 100 RP to 224 RP, while the development cost of 1,000 BP component will decrease from 10,000 RP to 2,236. Yeah, that's a big buff to larger components. That's good. Fleet window UI additions. If you have a fleet selected in tree view, double click on the fleet commander and the fleet summary, and the commander's window will open. Also selected. And the same with a couple of other things. So fleet, ship, and then fleet. You can double click on ship. Ships list has a selection on the tree view will change to that ship. Okay. And yeah. So cool. Looks like this update is heavily focused on quality of life, which I am 100% all the way down for. Quality of life is definitely a thing I much appreciate as somebody who plays this game a lot. I hadn't played it for a really long time, and then kind of getting back into YouTube made me want to get back into it. So it's been fun kind of getting into it. But yeah. So I guess that is all the changes listed. If you guys like this video, make sure to like it, leave a comment, subscribe. Tell me what your favorite change in this update was in the description, because for me, I would think it would be, there's a lot of really cool ones, but I would say probably the coolest to me is fire delay for point defense. And then the lots of hangar changes and repair yards. Repair yards are really cool. Fire at will is also really great. I think probably fire at will is, if I had to list one that I would want to have more than any of the others, it's fire at will. The ability to, especially if you're facing off against a limited number of enemy ships, being able to just tell your ships just open fire when you've got a chance to fire is a great option. It does suck if you're facing against a large fleet, but I think that that's kind of the point of it, is you want to direct fire in major combat because it's going to be more effective, more decisive. You know, whittling down all of your enemies is cool, but it doesn't really work out very well if they're all lighting you back up. Versus if you focus fire and pop individual enemies, you're going to have a lot better time. But yeah, I think that's it for today. Make sure if you'd like to join the RP to join the Discord. We're probably going to stay on version 1.12 until all the bugs in 1.13 are kind of ironed out. That's at least my plan. But yeah, if you have any questions for me, make sure to leave them in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all these views. If you can, leave a comment for the algorithm. That would be great. I just stuttered the hell out of it, but it always helps the channel. I do see people do it all the time, and I really appreciate that because it helps boost me up a little bit and gets those new views in, which really helps with growing the channel. But yeah, join us on the Discord if you'd like to join in, and thank you guys for watching. Bye.